What if your thoughts, your memories, your deepest values are nothing more than side effects of brain chemistry, just atoms doing what atoms do? Or what if your mind is not only real, but fundamental? Maybe it's not just a byproduct of matter, but it's potentially the most important aspect of reality. Today, we're going to explore two of the most powerful and radically different views in metaphysics: reductive materialism and mental non-reductionism. I'm going to unpack what they imply about the self, free will, morality, and even God. Behind every political debate, every moral argument, every belief about God or statement in science, there's a hidden worldview, a metaphysical worldview which shapes and informs everything else. And it often boils down to these two. Let's start with the basics. Reductive materialism is the dominant worldview in much of science today. It says that everything real can ultimately be explained in physical terms by breaking it down into its smallest parts. The idea is that all phenomena, including your thoughts and experiences, can be explained by simpler underlying mechanisms. So, your mind, it's just your brain. And your brain, a network of neurons firing due to chemical reactions. And those reactions governed by physical laws. In this view, consciousness is not fundamental. It's an illusion, a byproduct of complex physical interactions. Like the reflection of objects in a mirror, they look real, but they are just images and not the objects themselves. Reflections are just side effects of how light bounces off a reflective surface. Consciousness is just an odd side effect of the processes that occur within the brain. It does not have any causal power within reality itself. Now, contrast this with mental non-reductivism. This is a broad category of views that rejects the idea that consciousness can be fully explained by brain chemistry and physics beneath that. It says that mind is real, irreducible, and possibly fundamental to the universe. Some non-reductivists are dualists. They believe there are two kinds of substance, mind and matter. Others are idealists, who flip the materialist picture entirely, claiming that everything is actually mental and that matter is the illusion. And still others are emergentists, who believe that mental properties arise from the brain but are not reducible to it. Just like how wetness arises from water molecules, even though no single molecule is wet. Wetness is an emergent property from the relationship between other molecules. What unites these views is the conviction that the mind has properties like subjective experience, awareness, and the ability to perceive meaning that can't be captured by physical descriptions. These properties include qualia, the what it's like of experience. What it's like to see red, or to feel pain, or to be you right now. These views lead to dramatically different ideas about who you are. If you're a reductive materialist, then you probably argue that your sense of self is a useful fiction. It feels like you're in control, like you're making choices, but really, you're just following the script written by your genes, your neurons, the environment, and the laws of physics. In the most profound sense, there is no you at all, just atoms following physical laws. Free will, in this view, is usually also considered an illusion since matter does not have agency. It just follows natural laws. And that makes moral responsibility tricky. If a person's actions are determined by prior physical causes, how can we hold them accountable? How can anyone be praised or blamed for doing what fundamental physics compelled them to do? Remember, the mind is just a fiction that can be reduced to simpler physical descriptions. Rocks don't choose whether to fall, they just obey gravity. If minds are nothing but matter, our choices may be no different, simply neural equivalents of rolling downhill. By contrast, a mental non-reductivist typically sees the mind as something that can act freely, something not entirely bound by the deterministic laws of matter. A dualist might say we have souls that possess bodies, and the souls are free to choose as they please. An emergentist might argue that free will arises when consciousness emerges from complexity, not as a ghost in the machine, but as a higher level process with its own causal powers. In this view, agency is real. It arises from systems that organize themselves and respond adaptively to their environments. So according to mental non-reductivism, moral responsibility makes sense. You aren't just a biological machine. You are a conscious agent capable of choice. Now let's talk values. If reductive materialism is true, then morality, our sense of right and wrong, is ultimately just another byproduct of evolution and biology. We evolved certain feelings because they helped our ancestors survive, but that doesn't mean they're true. Evolution cares about survival, not truth. If moral beliefs helped us cooperate, that's why we have them, not because they reflect some objective moral order. That's a problem if you believe some things are objectively wrong, like slavery or genocide. Reductive materialists usually struggle to ground those beliefs in anything more solid than consensus or biology. That's why many end up arguing for moral relativism, the idea that right and wrong are just human preferences, not facts about the universe. Mental non-reductivists, however, are in a better position to say that moral truths might actually exist. If conscious experience is real and fundamental, then so are the experiences of truth, beauty, and goodness. Morality isn't just a glitch in our wetware. It might be part of the fabric of reality itself, which we can come to perceive through our minds. Morality might be discovered through our minds, but it is not invented. Similar to mathematical laws that govern the objective world, morality may depend on our minds to discover them, but that doesn't make morality fake. This brings us to the deepest question of all: God. If reductive materialism is true, then the universe is indifferent. It doesn't think or feel. Value is not embedded into the fabric of the universe, so to speak. The universe just is. We are temporary patterns of atoms, and when that pattern stops, that's it. Your mind is an epiphenomenon, a byproduct that arises from the brain but does not causally influence anything else. There is no cosmic justice, no higher meaning, no transcendent purpose. But if you believe the mind is not an epiphenomenon, if you believe in the irreducibility of consciousness, in the reality of moral values, and in free will, then the idea of God is not so far-fetched. In fact, it becomes almost natural because you're already affirming that reality isn't just cold matter. It includes mind, agency, intelligence, and value. Many spiritual traditions have long held that what's real is not just matter, but also spirit. And they argue that it is spirit, the dimensions of consciousness and will, that we must cultivate if we are to live well. That spirit can be aligned with what is transcendently good. Modern science, for all its explanatory power about the observable world, hasn't closed the case on ultimate reality. The hard problems of consciousness, metaethics, meaning, and religion are still with us today. These two versions of reality are ancient. The atomists of Greece, like Democritus, said everything was matter. Plato, on the other hand, said the soul could apprehend the form of eternal truths like goodness and beauty. Today, that debate lives on, in neuroscience labs, in Catholic cathedrals, in Buddhist temples, and in quantum physics labs. So where does that leave us? Here's my take. If it wasn't obvious, I lean towards mental non-reductivism, perhaps best just called spirituality. I believe that consciousness, free will, and value are real. I believe that spirit, whatever it is, matters. We'll likely never have absolute certainty about these issues. Maybe the best we can do is ask, which worldview makes life richer? Which helps us love better, act justly, and live with purpose? In the end, that's a choice each of us has to make. It's the metaphysical narrative that we adopt, explicitly or otherwise, that forms all other questions in our life. From atheism to religion, politics and culture, and our own existential journeys. So, since you can never be completely certain, choose wisely.